Hello everyone, welcome to Safety Forward's Lunch and Learn. This session's regarding what type of manual handling is suitable for my business. So in this we're going to go through a little bit about, going into the different types of manual handling e-learning that are available and which ones are going to be better suited to our businesses. So we'll just go for a general understanding of manual handling to start off with, and then we will go into a little bit of the law and legislation, but not too much. And then we will be going into more about, what will be appropriate for your business yourself. Okay. Hi, Lindsay. Yeah. Okay, then. So, welcome to the Lunch and Learn. Right, so just a quick definition. So what is manual handling? Manual handling is any activity that includes lifting, putting down, pulling, pushing, carrying, supporting or moving an object, person or animal using the hand or any other part of the body. So the reason when we go into manual handling, people automatically just assume that we're talking about moving boxes, moving goods, moving stuff like this. What people don't realise is that manual handling is what we do from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed, really. When you get up, you make your cup of tea in the morning. That mug is a manual handling aid. Sorry, I can just hear someone. Could everybody mute their mics, please? Brilliant, thank you, Mike. Brilliant. Yeah, so we don't assume, we just assume that it's moving goods and stuff like this, but it's not. Manual handling involves anything that involves moving something or carrying or pushing, pulling within your organisation, from making a cup of tea to opening your car door to get into it, to everything. It's all manual handling. So what we try to do is just to open everybody's eyes to the amount of manual handling that everybody actually does in a day. It's a lot more than we realise. So this is why we need training, because manual handling is everybody does it constantly. So we need to train people in it to make sure that people understand the correct lifting techniques available, and to understand, what's reasonable to ask of somebody and what's not when asking them to move goods. So, oh, sorry, something's just happened there. There we go. Right, so legislation and regulations behind manual handling. Manual handling is covered typically by two regulations. It's the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 and the Manual Handling Operations Regulations 1992. You might see the Health and Safety at Work Act put down as HASAWA. You see that quite a lot. It's just an abbreviation for it, and Manual Handling Operations Regulations are MHOR. So with the Health and Safety at Work Act, this sets out the general duties on employers and employees in regards to health and safety, not just manual handling. It's in regards to all health and safety. So this is your typical, just your overview, your overrules of of health and safety. Manual handling is a little bit different. It basically outlines what we need to do for manual handling as an employer. So it's where possible, employers should avoid the need for any manual handling that's not required and that could be resulting in injury. And where it's not possible to avoid the task, they should be making a suitable assessment for the task to be undertaken. They should be taking steps to reduce the risk of injury. They should be informing employees of the weight load of the goods that they're carrying. So, for example, quite often you'll find like a larger box with 25 kg on the side of it. There's a reason, is because your employer is obliged to show you what is in that box. Quite often what people tend to do with larger boxes is they'll break them down into smaller boxes, and quite often like that the maximum weight load the weight load of the box itself gets lost. So however, a lot of the time what I find a lot of clients do is when they break the box down, they just mark on there what the weight of each individual box would be, and that's just quite an easy way around it to make sure your employees know what they're lifting. So if you do not comply with manual handling laws, it can actually result in large fines, and if you're found guilty, up to 2 years in prison for the responsible person. So in regard to this, we kind of want to avoid anything like that. Okay, so now we're just going to jump into different levels of manual handling that are available. So the different levels that you'll typically find, the most common things you'll find are manual handling, e-learning / awareness. Typically you find that e-learning is awareness training. Sometimes they're just named slightly differently. Then you've got the face-to-face manual handling training, which is by all means, in my honest assessment, the most effective. I'd say it would be the most effective for most businesses. for their manual handling. And then you have finally manual handling, train the trainer. So the reason why I've put this one in there is because this is more aimed at your larger groups of people, your larger companies, with people, with a higher turnover of staff, or, if you're just using agency workers, things like this. It's having somebody trained internally is much easier than paying over and over again to have people trained again and again. So quite often with larger companies, it may be worth just training somebody as a trainer. Also, when you are selecting people to be trained as a trainer, you need to be quite thoughtful on this, because you don't want to be sending somebody through the train the trainer course to then have them leave the business and leave you without any manual handling training or without a trainer. So always take into consideration who you're choosing for your manual handling to be designated as the trainer. So just here, I've just got a couple of real cases that we've pulled up regarding the manual handling training. Regarding insufficient manual handling training from two big providers. Well, one big provider and another relatively large company. So the first one we have here is Dyson. So as you can see in the photo, I'm not sure if it's big enough for you. I apologise if it's not. But you can actually see that is the machine that was tipped over, and that was how it was tipped over. So this machine was being moved by, usually within Dyson, they have a 3-day rule. You cannot take out a forklift truck you have to give 3 days notice for the appropriate risk assessments to be put into place. They've got very good safety systems in place through Dyson, as the HSE actually commended them on it. But yes, so basically they didn't wait the 3 days, and they couldn't get hold of a forklift. So they ended up actually moving this machine with a range with trolley jacks and roller skates, different things they used, which were just completely unsuitable for the task. And it resulted in the guy that was actually moving it, the machine fell over and it actually fell on him. Fortunately for him, there were some apprentices' toolboxes and a lathe nearby, and it actually fell and landed on the lathe, which stopped him from, in all honesty, it stopped him from probably being killed. He came away with just a few injuries to his head and his chest, which still not ideal, but it's far better than dealing with a fatality, isn't it? Yes, so then secondly, we've got Dyson resulted in being a £1.2 million fine, and also paying £11,511 in costs. So after that, we've got a company called PCR Steel that were loading steels onto a flatbed truck. It was for a metal frame. The load wasn't secured, and it was moved with the telehandler forklift, and it actually fell on the employee on the back of the flatbed. Unfortunately, the gentleman that it fell on, it was a fatality. It did kill him in the end, unfortunately. PCR Steel were actually fined in the end £50,000 in order to pay costs of £9,900. Now, I understand that, Dyson had a head injury and a chest injury, and they were fined 1.2 million, and PCR were fined 50,000 for a fatality. But this just comes down to reasonable practicability. At the end of the day, Dyson had more money available to them at the time for health and safety measures. So therefore, they were hit with a larger fine than with PCR Steel were. Yeah, so in the end, it was ruled that Dyson didn't provide suitable information, instruction and training on manual handling, and PCR Steel were ruled that the lift was not planned by a competent person, was not appropriately supervised, and work was not carried out in a safe manner. They were the charges that they were charged with in the end. Okay, so here we've just got some statistics from the HSE, some up-to-date 2022-23. It's the most recent we can get. So you'll see there that 41% of musculoskeletal disorders by the affective area, 41% were the back, 41% were the upper limbs and neck, and 17% were the lower limbs. With 473,000 workers suffering from work-related musculoskeletal disorders, 132,000 workers suffering from a new case of work-related musculoskeletal disorders in 22-23, and a result of 6.6 million working days lost to the economy in 2022-23 alone, just down to musculoskeletal disorders.